Wanna turn the lights out.
Hey everyone, this is Natasha from MakeupInSFC. Welcome back to my channel. So today we are going to be talking all about brows and how I like to fill them in. This is kind of an updated tutorial, and I have 2 or 3 videos that I've done before, but I think it's time to update because I do them a little bit differently now. I think over the years my eyebrow game has just gone up and down, but I've always been obsessed. I think when I was 12, I took a razor to my brows and I decided that it was a good idea to shave the top of them. I don't know why. And so I had these little tadpoles, and from then on, I vowed to myself that I would never F with my brows again. I actually saw Anastasia Beverly Hills on Oprah, and she inspired me to really take my brows seriously. If you look at the history of brows, the trends have changed. You know, in the 20s, they were really thin. In the 30s, they were non-existent. 40s, 50s, they got really dramatic, thick and full, almost exaggerated. 60s and 70s, you had different kinds of brows depending. Some people overplucked, some people, you know, drew them in. And then when you got into the 80s and the 90s, fuller brows started to come back, and it just became something like iconic. So no matter what era you look in, brows make a statement. And so that's something that I really wanted to emphasize in this video, that you really want to make the brows the best that they can be, because they pretty much pull together, in my opinion, a whole look. You can change your brows. If you look at Asian cultures, a lot of the aesthetic is to make brows really thick and straight. In American culture, you have the Instagram brows where they're really, really exaggerated, almost perfect in their shape. And then you have natural full brows, which is what I more likely to do. And so I'm going to show you that technique versus the other ones. If you are interested in those, you can definitely look up on YouTube. There are tons of different tutorials on all of those kinds of brows. But for this one, it's going to be natural and full. And for the most part, I have done my brows my whole life. In the past couple years, I've on and off gone to the Balm Cosmetics. We have a flagship store over in San Francisco, and so I trust these women with my life. They have all done my brows, and I'm really happy with them. I think that when you find a brow person, it's kind of a long-term relationship because you're trusting them with a really big part of your face. I mean, so if you're getting your brows done for the first time, what I would suggest is going to professional, someone who specifically does brows, not just any waxing area. Because in years past, I've gone to nail salons or stuff like that where someone did do brows, but not necessarily like the best shape for my face. So I would come out looking with like really thin, bad ones. But I would suggest for your first time going to a brow professional. That way they can really talk you through it and kind of like guide you on what shape works best for your face. And then what I usually do is, if I'm not in the capacity to wax my brows every month, which is about a good time for it to grow out and then wax consistently, I usually just clean up under the best that I can, following the shape. And then if it gets too crazy, then I go get it waxed. So the trick is being patient and letting things grow. Because if you're going to get it waxed, it's better to have them wax everything consistently instead of plucking and then waxing, plucking and then waxing, because the brow hairs don't grow at the same rate, if that makes sense. And so for your first time, I definitely suggest going to get your brows shaped, and then from then on you can kind of decide whether you want to keep waxing or threading, whatever it may be, and then you can continue doing with pluckers. What I do to maintain my brows is I pretty much, if I'm not getting them waxed, I will pluck them myself. And so what I like to do is I like to map out the shape. So if you have already done your brows, go ahead and keep them, because then you can see where you want to pluck, because then your ideal brow is already on your face. So what I like to do, I don't even touch the top when I'm not getting them waxed. I trust the professionals for that. So if I'm just trying to clean up in between waxes, what I like to do is I like to draw the under part of my brow and then just clean up anything that's below that line. So it keeps it easy, keeps it simple, and it's almost foolproof. I don't go too close to the brow line because I just want to clean it up and I don't want to mess up the shape that I've already gotten. So that's what I like to do. So after I pluck that, then I'll clean them off. So before I prep my brows, what I like to do is outline the bottom part so I can see, you know, where my brow should end. So I actually highlight before I start to fill in. So I take my Milani Brow Eye Highlight Pencil, and I take the matte side and I just sort of map on my eyelid, and then I take a flat liner brush like this and I just kind of push it around just so I can blend it out. Use my finger to blend the edges, and what it does is just preps my eyebrow to show where the shape is going to end and where I need to guide myself when it comes to the bottom line of my brow. For brow powder, what I like to do is I first map out the bottom part of my brow. So I will outline that, and then as I'm moving up towards the brow, I will flick the brush in a way where it mimics brow hairs just as they would grow in the hair. I like to use a spoolie to brush my brows in place so I can see what shape I'm doing, and then it really helps to get a good visual on where my brow line is lacking and where I need to fill in. And then the brow spoolie is also good for distributing the product because sometimes things can get chunky and you just want to blend it out. And so that's how I use powder. Depending where I'm working on the brow, I like to take the angle of the brush and direct it towards the growth of the hair. So if my eyebrow hairs are naturally going down, then I'm going to take the brush and draw downwards. Then if the hair is going up, I'm going to do upwards. So as you can see here, I'm lacking a little bit of a tail to my brow, so I add a little bit more on. And then towards the front, what I like to do is I like to flick upwards so that it has more of a feathered look. And then I'll turn it completely perpendicular, and then I'll start to create the front of my brow by just drawing hairs that are naturally going up. The thing that you want to vary is the pressure that you put on. So towards the front of the brow, my pressure is really light and I'm using really quick flicking strokes. And then towards the end, I will press a little bit more because I want it to be from lightest to darkest, especially with the darkest at the end. And so that is what my brows look with just powder. It's a really nice natural way to do your brows. On to the next brow. So I'm highlighting before I start, just like I did with the brow before, and I'm using the Milani pencil again and the Eco Tools flat liner brush just to blend everything out. The other thing I like to use is pomade. So in any product that I use, I really try not to go too far up and too far down to cover up the follicles because I want the hair to be seen. I want it to look like it's real hair. What I'm just doing is darkening and filling in sparse areas. I'm trying to make it look like hair exists where it doesn't. So that's what the purpose is for these products. Now when I'm using Dip Brow, in my other video, I was really heavy-handed, and over the years, like, I've learned to lighten my use. So you'll see in the video, I will dip my angled brush. This one is from NYX. I use this in the same way. I outline and just pretty much flick the product as I'm going up in the brow. Just as before, I like to outline the bottom line of my brows, and so I'm taking those flicking motions that I had done with powder the same way I do with the pomade. As you can see, I kind of start 3/4 of the way in. I don't touch the front of the brow when I'm beginning. I leave that front part bare, and then I'm going to touch on that later. As I move up the brow, I just go in the direction of the hair growth. So if the hairs go down, I go down. If they go up, I go up. Brushing the pomade is always key because you want to distribute the product, but I don't press so hard that I take product away. So you want to be very light when you're combing through. The great thing about pomade is as you're applying it to the brow, it actually presses onto the brow hairs, keeping them in place. And so that's why it's very important to go in the direction of the hair growth. It may not appear like I'm doing much, but when you look at the brow before and after, you'll definitely see a difference because the pigment is being placed in the sparse areas. And then as I'm getting towards the center, I decided to change to pencil so that I can create more hair-like strokes. And so I used the Anastasia Brow Wiz in the color medium. I'm so sorry this clip is out of focus, but I'm using the brow pencil the same way I had used the eyeliner brush. And so I'm flicking upwards, creating the hairs that don't exist, just so that it makes the front of the brow look a little bit softer than with just the dip brow. And then to clean up my brow after, what I like to use is my NYX concealer in a jar, and I take a little bit of that on the same brush and I will use that to further highlight under the brow bone. I don't like to use it above just because I think it looks a little bit unnatural, so I just focus it on the brow bone because when it comes to eyeshadow it just makes that pop and look clean and nice. To set my brows, I use e.l.f. Clear Brow Gel. It is a brow mascara. It's supposed to be for lashes and for brows, but I just use it for my brows. Really good, inexpensive. It's $2 at Targets and all that stuff. And it's a really good brow setting gel. So I hope that was helpful and I hope that gave you information. If you have any more questions, go ahead and list them down below. Thank you so much for watching and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!